So we've got round 12 of the 2021 F3 Cup Championship coming up for you very shortly from Donington Park. The cars are already on the grid. The grey clouds have started to clear now as well, and the sun is just peeking its way through. We saw a race for these cars yesterday, round 11 of the championship, where Stefano Lini, who is the championship leader, looked well on course for what would have been his 10th win of the season. He was leading by 30 seconds. He was setting fastest lap after fastest lap after fastest lap. However, he over-pushed the car at Coppice Corner, lost the tail end of it, dropped it into the gravel and retired. So it was Shane Kelly that came through to grab his first win of the season. Now, the grid for this race is set based on the fastest lap times, the second fastest lap times from qualification. So, guide you through the grid. Stefano Lini lines up on pole position, and the former champion, George Line, sits alongside at the wheel of the number 15 car. Row 2 of the grid is yesterday's race winner, Shane Kelly, and retiree from yesterday's race, Tony Bishop. He was trying to avoid a spinning car in ahead of himself and dropped it into the barriers. And row 3 of the grid is number 66, John Corbett, who lines up alongside Dominic Paul. The final row of the grid is the number 90 car of Mark Harrison, who is back in the championship this weekend for just his second weekend of racing. We saw him at Alton Park, where he finished in the 5th position in both of the races. So yesterday's race, Shane Kelly came through to grab the win. He starts from 3rd on the grid. George Line, a former champion in this series, was 2nd in yesterday's race. George Line having claimed this championship back in what was a few years ago now, really. I think it was 2016, wasn't it? George Line was the champion. And Dominic Paul finished 3rd in yesterday's race. Dominic started from the front row of the grid, dropped all the way down through the order, and then had to fight his way back through once more. It's a strange old race for Dominic Paul at the wheel of one of 2 Chris Dittman Racing prepared cars. You can see the 2 of them in the background there, the sort of yellow and burgundy and black cars that Chris Dittman and his team prepare for both Dominic Paul and for Mark Harrison. So this is scheduled to be a 15-lap race for round 12 of the championship. Round 13 will be taking place later on this afternoon, and then their final 3 races of the season, rounds 14, 15 and 16, will take place at Snetterton in Norfolk in just a week's time. 25th of September they're scheduled to be down at Snetterton for the final 3 championship rounds. So it's back-to-back weekends for the F3 Cup Championship. So all of the drivers here will want to make sure that they get a nice clean race, and the same for their final race of the weekend, because in 7 days time, or 6 days time really, they'll be down in Norfolk to do it all again and work out who is going to become the champion for this year. Stefano Lini, 370 points coming into this weekend. He non-finished yesterday, wasn't declared as a finisher, so he will have scored 0 points other than the points he'll have picked up for the fastest lap and the pole position, whereas Shane Kelly, who was 2nd in the championship and was a good way behind him, the best part of 73 points behind him, will have picked up maximum points for yesterday because of the win in his particular class. That would have been 35 for him. So lights are on the Grand Prix. Stefano Lini and George Line on the front row of the grid. 5-second board's just been held aloft. There's the green flag actually, so up will come the 5-second board, and then watch to the right of your screen. The red lights will come on. The revs will begin to rise. There's the red lights. And these F3 Cup cars are go. Stefano Lini a little bit slower away, I thought there, but it looks as though everybody was maybe just caught out a little bit. But on the run down towards Redgate Corner, Stefano Lini will lead. George Line in 2nd place. Shane Kelly slots his way through into 3rd position. Dominic Paul in 4th place. Tony Bishop in 5th by the look of things. John Corbett in 6th and Mark Harrison in 7th at the tail end of the field. But already, just look at Stefano Lini. He is at the wheel of one of the F3 Euro class cars, so that is for cars complying with the 2018-2019 Euro Formula Open regulations, whereas the vast majority of the other cars all run in the F3 Cup class, which is for cars and engines and ECUs that were raced between 2008 and 2016. George Line coming under pressure from Dominic Paul, who's looking to try and squeeze his way through. Dominic Paul makes it stick and goes through. George Line now getting unpicked by Shane Kelly as well, and might lose further places as well. Now I do wonder, might there be a problem for George Line? No, looks as though he's back with it again, weaving around to try and squeeze his way through and past, but for the moment he's not quite going to be able to make it, I don't think. He's dropped down behind Tony Bishop and has dropped behind John Corbett, so yeah, he has sort of dropped down to 6th position now, having started on the outside of the front row of the grid. A lot break from Shane Kelly, puts him under pressure. He's got Tony Bishop behind him. Say Tony retired from yesterday's race, and what caused the retirement was John Corbett had a big moment coming out of the old hairpin, skidded across the grass, had a spin, and I think as he came back across the circuit from one side to the other, it was right in front of Tony Bishop, who took avoiding action and then ultimately ended up heading off into the gravel trap and damaging the front corner of the number 21 car. So great to see Tony back out there. He'll be pushing hard in this one, but Stefano Lini has already gapped the field to the tune of 3 seconds after just the first lap of racing. He has been stellar really so far this year. Prior to his retirement yesterday, there was only one race that Stefano Lini hadn't claimed victory in, and that was a race which he won on the road at Brands Hatch, but was given a time penalty for going beyond the circuit limits too many times, and therefore on the corrected results, the amended times, he finished in 6th position. Now I suspect at this point of the circuit there, Coppice Corner, which is where he had his off yesterday, if he's built a large margin, he'll maybe just be slightly wary of heading through that part of the circuit, because there was no need yesterday. It was his own mistake, I'm sure. I've not spoken to him since yesterday, but it just seemed as though he was pushing too hard when he'd already got a big advantage and didn't need to. The best of the fights is for 3rd place at the moment. Shane Kelly, who has had plenty of wins here at Donington Park in the past in the University of Wolverhampton prepared car, the car that the students that are studying their motorsport degrees prepare, is running there in 3rd place. Tony Bishop and John Corbett rolling their sleeves up and slugging it out over what is 4th and 5th position currently. As they head into the braking area this time through, lock brakes from John Corbett up the inside of Tony Bishop. Runs wide does John Corbett as a result of braking too late. Back gaining the place goes Tony Bishop, but he's back under pressure again as they head over the start-finish line. Jinking out from behind goes John Corbett, but it's on the outside line as they head up towards Redgate. Can he sweep his way through? No, they are still side by side. And eventually Tony Bishop still hangs on to it. Is he going to run wide coming out of the corner and allow John Corbett back? Yes, he does. So the order changes back and changes again, all within the course of just 2 or 3 corners there. Down through the old hairpin. Corbett in his newly reacquired 4th position. Tony Bishop down to 5th. George Line in 6th place, say having started on the front row of the grid. George Line is having a race very much like Dominic Paul's yesterday. Dominic started in 2nd place on the field in the grid and dropped down towards the rear end of it, but then fought his way back towards the end. So George Line, maybe the way the car is set up, will come on stronger as the race wears on. Now remember, we've got the 2 separate classes. We've got the F3 Euro class for the newer cars and the F3 Cup class for those cars that were built between 2008 and the end of 2016. And at the moment, Stefano Lini leads the race and leads the Euro Cup class. Dominic Paul is 2nd in the race and leads the F3 Cup class. Shane Kelly also runs in the F3 Cup class. He's there in 3rd. Tony Bishop is a Euro class car, as is John Corbett's. George Line, that car there we're looking at. And the car behind him, Mark Harrison, who's just falling away a shade, also running the F3 Cup class for the slightly older cars in the field. But it's always good to see Pucker Formula 3 cars out and racing. Great noise they make. Yes, they might not have as much power as otherwise they perhaps could have because of that air restrictor that sticks out of the side of the engine bay and restricts the amount of air that flows into the engine, but Formula 3 globally has been a formula for a huge number of years. But domestically within the UK, this is the only time we really get to see proper Formula 3 cars race nowadays. So up towards Coppice Corner goes Dominic Paul. Used to race in the GT Cup Championship, which is also on the programme here at Donington Park. He was a former overall champion in that when he was racing as Ginetta in it a few years ago. Dominic Paul moved over to race in the British GT Championship in a GT3 BMW for Century Motorsport. He sits there in 2nd place in the race. There's Shane Kelly in 3rd place. He's been a regular in this championship for a good number of years now, has Shane. And has always been a force to be reckoned with, Shane Kelly. He's finished runner-up on several occasions in this championship over the years. I think the first time we probably really saw Shane do a full season was 2016, wheel of that number 11 car, where he finished runner-up in the championship to George Line on that year. He was runner-up the year later as well, Jacopo Sebastiani having taken the championship in 2017. Shane Kelly again finishing runner-up. New fastest lap of the race for Stefano Lini, as you can see there on your screens. A 1 minute 24.921. And now, is Shane Kelly getting caught by John Corbett? In answer to that, yes, he is. John Corbett was about 0.4 of a second quicker there with the number 66 car. Now, John's car is slightly newer. It runs in the F3 Euro class, and it's not just the fact that the chassis is newer, it's the fact that the aero on these cars, on the newer cars, is substantively more efficient and provides a lot more downforce than the F3 Cup class cars. Just all of the extra little winglets that are on the car and the way that the air flows over the surfaces on it. It was a big step up when the Formula 3 regulations were changed and this new chassis was built. You can see also how much more the nose is raised on the F3 Euro class cars. And as John Corbett works his way through the S's with 8 minutes to go, he's looking to try and see whether he can haul himself onto the podium here. Difficulty will be, as ever, is that the closer he gets to Shane Kelly, the more it's going to disturb the airflow over the nose and the rear wing of his car, and therefore he'll lose downforce. So onto the brakes goes John Corbett through the left-hander. Team Fox prepared car trying to catch up with the University of Wolverhampton machine that lies ahead. And if John Corbett catches the car ahead, he then also needs to get past it, because if he doesn't, then that car there, Tony Bishop, might squeeze his way through. Another new fastest lap of the race last time through for Stefano Lini, 1 minute 24.223 you saw there briefly on your screens. We're now also at the halfway point of the race, and Stefano Lini leads, as you can see, by 7.35 seconds from Dominic Paul. Shane Kelly is a further, 3.1 seconds back from that, 10 seconds adrift of the race leader, but has still got John Corbett within 3/4 of a second of him, and John Corbett has got within a second of him, Tony Bishop. Now there is Tony Bishop sitting there in 5th position. George Line is about 1.2 seconds adrift of him in the largely blue and yellow car at the background of the shot. So what we're looking at is 3rd, 4th, 5th and 6th, the little quartet heading down the straight. Puff of smoke from the tail end of Tony Bishop's car there in his pursuit of the car ahead. Now everybody is still improving their lap times. I think circuit conditions, we've had a few spits of rain. You can see still there's some damp areas to the outer edges of the circuit. The main racing line is now bone dry, but I think conditions improving because we've had the rain, of course, the circuit continuing to rubber up as well. So that's why lap times are continually improving amongst pretty much every competitor in the field. So through goes Stefano Lini. He was a little bit slower on that lap, but still managed to pull away from Dominic Paul. Shane Kelly posted his best individual lap of the race so far, so opened the gap back up again between himself and the car of John Corbett. Tony Bishop and George Line also lapping quicker than they have previously done, but George Line is still not catching the cars ahead. The number 15 car in the hands of the former champion weaves his way out of the old hairpin in the second of the two University of Wolverhampton prepared machines. Up through Schwantz curve in towards McLean's corner. And for George Line, well, he is now 1.5 seconds almost adrift of Tony Bishop. The gap was 1.2 a few laps ago, so he's pushing as hard as he can, but it's just not quite happening at the moment for George Line. So 5 minutes of the race remaining. Stefano Lini, having gone slower on the previous lap than he's previously gone, is pushing again on this lap, I would say, the race leader. He's got a 9-second lead almost between himself and Dominic Paul now. George Line accelerating his way in 6th position back up the hill and in towards the braking area for the final corner, which is Goddard's. Turn number 12 here at Donington Park on the Grand Prix circuit, the full 2.4873 mile configuration that we're on. As George Line goes over the start-finish line, that is the last of the cars that we've got in the field, which is the Dallara F308 of Mark Harrison. Turning his way through the right-hander at Redgate Corner. Mark is 6 seconds adrift of George Line at the moment, and last time through posted his best lap of the race that he's done so far, but still was about 3/10 slower than George Line's time. So I think for Mark Harrison, he's going to struggle to catch, let alone get past in the remaining 4 minutes of it. He'll be hoping maybe that if others push a bit too hard or have problems, a bit like we saw towards the tail end of yesterday's race, then he might be able to pick up a place or so. He finished in 4th place yesterday, Mark Harrison. Wasn't the last of the finishers. John Corbett finished behind him. But for Mark Harrison, 4th position was his best result of the season yesterday in what is only his 2nd weekend of racing this season in the F3 Cup Championship. So through the left and the right flicks at the S's, where new curbs have been installed for this weekend so as to prevent cars from cutting the corners. Now, this time through, Stefano Lini has pushed. New fastest lap of the race for Stefano Lini. 1 minute 24.183 from Stefano Lini. How does that compare to the lap time he posted yesterday? Well, at the moment, that's still about 1.1 seconds slower than yesterday's fastest lap. It was a 1:23.0 in yesterday's race. As we say, in yesterday's race, when he was leading comfortably, and I do mean absolutely comfortably, he just pushed too hard up at Coppice Corner. The car got away from him, it spun through the gravel and got stranded, and that was it. He retired 10 laps into an 11-lap race, having been leading it by, 20-plus seconds at the time, and was not classified as a finisher. So it was a real frustrating end to the day for Stefano Lini. I would imagine he will drive hard but not push 110% this time through. So in towards the braking area. He's on lap number 9 at the moment, leading by 11.8 seconds from Dominic Paul. So again, a nice comfortable advantage for the overall championship leader. 370 points. Missed out on taking his 10th victory of the season yesterday. Suffered his first retirement. But he will certainly be looking to try and bounce back with victory number 10 today instead. So over the start-finish line he will come onto the penultimate lap this time through. So the lap that he's starting, one more thereafter. You can see how much he sweeps towards pit lane exit to try and reduce the angle heading in toward Redgate Corner. Take a wide sweep into it. Use all of the tarmac that's available to you. And then thread your way down through the Craner curves. Daunting part of the circuit, but must be hugely satisfying in these Formula 3 cars. With the amount of downforce they'll give you, you'll be absolutely flat out through there. Now this is the fight that's beginning to form again here for 3rd and 4th place. John Corbett had dropped away a little bit from Shane Kelly, but last time through, John Corbett set his best individual lap of the race at the wheel of the black and orange number 66 Dallara. Remember, he runs in the F3 Euro class, for which he's running 2nd in that class at the moment, albeit 4th overall in the race. And last time through, he was 0.3 of a second quicker than Shane Kelly, so the gap is back down to 0.8 of a second between the pair of them yet again. Tony Bishop in 5th place has fallen ever more away from the pair. And are they catching Dominic Paul? Well, John Corbett is. John Corbett was 0.3 of a second quicker than Dominic Paul. Shane Kelly lapped roughly about the same lap time as Dominic Paul last time through. So 2nd not really catching 3rd, but 3rd getting caught by 4th. With now just 1 lap of this 12th round of the championship to go. And Stefano Lini leading absolutely comfortably as he now heads on to his last lap of the race. Now there is Dominic Paul, just heading round through Goddard's now. Accelerating his way over the start-finish line. Shane Kelly still under attack from John Corbett, who will pick up a tow from the slightly older Dallara that lies ahead. Again, Shane Kelly using all of that pit lane exit tarmac to try and lessen the angle going in towards Redgate Corner, and still needs to keep pushing hard here, does Shane Kelly, because again another 0.3 of a second was taken out of his advantage from John Corbett last time through. So Shane Kelly 3rd and getting caught, but I'm sure has everything in hand, because John Corbett is simply not close enough at this stage. And as I said earlier on, as soon as he gets that little bit closer, it certainly affects the aero on the cars. So just perhaps needs to bear in mind that he's 2nd in the class. And no, he's overstepped the mark. He's done exactly what Stefano Lini did yesterday. Went up towards Coppice Corner. He, however, is going to put the rear wheels back off the gravel and onto the tarmac, so should be able to get going. But for John Corbett, again, that was sort of an unforced area, very much like Stefano Lini yesterday, but whereas John Corbett, I think, has got away with it, Stefano didn't. His car was embedded in the gravel and was going nowhere, and he had, of course, lost the lead. However, he does claim the victory today. Stefano Lini comes over the start-finish line. Victory number 10 of the season in round number 12. It is going to be the car of, well, Dominic Paul has had an issue on that lap as well. Now, Dominic Paul, or did the transponder not work? No, here comes Dominic Paul now. The timing screen suggesting that he was in 6th position, but no, he comes through to finish in 2nd position. 3rd place is Shane Kelly. 4th place through now will be the next of the cars over the start-finish line, which is going to be George Line, that will finish in 4th position. And 5th place should be Mark Harrison. The graphics won't show that because I think Dominic Paul's car has got a transponder issue at this stage. Or is he given a time penalty, I wonder? I think it might be. Yeah, a 10-second penalty for Dominic Paul. That's why he's dropped down through the order. And also a 10-second penalty for what is Mark Harrison in that race. That can only be for circuit limits. So Stefano Lini claims the win in this race. So as he heads through there on his slowing down lap, as soon as we can confirm the results, I will run you through the order of the results. But as we say, Dominic Paul might have finished second on the road, but on corrected times, he has been given a 10-second penalty for transgressing the circuit limits. That same fate also befell the number 90 car of Mark Harrison, who also received a 10-second time penalty for track limits, and that must be either Redgate Corner or the old hairpin, where they've largely been running wide. That's where we've seen a lot of cars over the course of this weekend run wide. Sometimes it's just the warning, but that comes if you do it the first time, you get away with it. Do it a second time, it's a warning. Do it a third time, it's a 5-second penalty. Do it a fourth time, it's a 10-second penalty. A fifth time would be 30 seconds, and a sixth time would be a black flag. You'd have to park it. Simple as that. Is the way that the regulations tend to work. So down towards the pit lane now will come, and Stefano Lini will be heading towards the Parc Ferme area, where all the technical checks will be done on the cars. There'll then be an official podium presentation that will be done by the circuit commentator. We won't be bringing you that one, but we will be bringing you their 13th round of the championship later on this afternoon. That is scheduled to take place at the third and final race this weekend for the F3 Cup Championship. At around about 10 to 6 this evening, we'll see those cars head back out onto circuit. So I'll just confirm the results. Number 28, Stefano Lini, claims the win, and the win in the F3 Euro category. Second was number 11, Shane Kelly, and third was 21, Tony Bishop. Fourth was 15, George Line. Fifth, with the time penalty, was Dominic Paul. Sixth was number 90, Mark Harrison. John Corbett did recover from the spin to finish in 7th place. So that's all for the moment from Donington Park, but join us for more F3 Cup later on today. Goodbye.